What if I told you, the words you've been reading your whole life hold a hidden power, one that can shift your finances, your stress, even your debt, in just 7 days? Not by magic, not by luck, but by a method so precise, so intentional, that once you read Psalm 23 this way, you'll never read it the same again. Most people approach Psalm 23 as something to read quickly, almost like a routine or a comforting ritual during stressful moments. They repeat the words, feel a temporary sense of relief, and then return to the same patterns that keep them stuck, especially when it comes to money and debt. But the real transformation begins when you stop treating these words as passive and start using them as active instructions for your life. Reading without intention is like looking at a map but never taking a step. The message may be powerful, but it produces no change unless it is activated. Activation means you slow down, you focus, and you deliberately connect each line to your real-life behavior. It means you stop reading with your eyes and start reading with your awareness. When you say, "The Lord is my shepherd," it should not come out as a soft, distant phrase. It should feel like a firm decision. A shepherd represents guidance, structure, and protection. So the question becomes personal. Are you actually allowing guidance in your financial life? Or are you making decisions based on emotions, impulse spending, fear-based choices, or copying what others are doing? Activation forces you to confront that gap between what you say and how you act. Then comes the shift. Instead of rushing through the next line, you pause, you let it settle. You think about your current situation, your income, your expenses, your habits, and you begin aligning your actions with the meaning behind the words. This is where the power lies. Not in repeating the verse 10 times, but in truly understanding it once and applying it. Activation also requires consistency. One mindful reading can inspire you, but repeated intentional reading can reprogram you. Over time, your brain begins to associate these words with discipline, clarity, and control. You stop reacting automatically. You start responding thoughtfully, and that shift alone can begin to change your financial direction. Another key part of activation is emotional engagement. If your voice is flat and your mind is distracted, nothing changes. But when you read with presence, when you feel the meaning, when you visualize what it looks like in your life, you create a deeper connection. Your mind starts accepting these ideas as truth, not just words. And once your beliefs begin to shift, your behavior follows naturally. Think about it this way. Debt is not just numbers on paper. It is the result of repeated actions, small decisions made daily without awareness. Activation interrupts that pattern. It brings awareness to your choices. It makes you pause before spending, before reacting, before continuing old habits. And in that pause, you gain control. This method is simple, but it is not easy. It requires patience. It requires honesty. It requires you to face your current reality without excuses. But it also gives you something powerful in return, a sense of direction. You no longer feel lost or overwhelmed. You begin to feel guided, intentional, and in control of your path. When you activate what you read, the words stop being external. They become part of how you think, how you decide, and how you act. And once that happens, change is no longer something you hope for. It becomes something you create. When you read "I shall not want" in Psalm 23, most people interpret it as a hopeful statement, something they wish to be true someday. But the real power of this line is not in hope, it is in identity. It is a decision about how you see your current situation, regardless of what your bank account says. This is where the transformation begins, because the way you think about money directly shapes how you handle it. A scarcity mindset is one of the biggest hidden causes of debt. It constantly whispers, "There's not enough, I need more, or I'll never get ahead." When you operate from this mindset, your decisions become reactive. You spend to feel better, to escape pressure, or to prove something to others. You chase quick solutions instead of building long-term stability. Even when money comes in, it disappears quickly, because the underlying belief is still rooted in lack. "I shall not want" challenges that belief at its core. It teaches you to shift from desperation to sufficiency. This does not mean you suddenly have everything you desire. It means you stop approaching life from a place of emotional emptiness. You begin to recognize what you already have, and more importantly, you start managing it with intention. This shift is subtle but powerful. When you believe "I don't have enough," you focus on what's missing. But when you adopt the mindset of "I have enough to start," your focus changes to what you can do. Instead of feeling stuck, you begin to take small, meaningful actions, tracking your spending, cutting unnecessary expenses, prioritizing needs over impulses. These actions may seem simple, but they create momentum. Gratitude plays a key role in this transformation, not the superficial kind, but a grounded awareness of your current resources. When you acknowledge what is already in your control, your relationship with money begins to stabilize. You stop treating it as something that constantly slips away, and start seeing it as something you can direct and manage. This mindset also reduces emotional spending. Many financial mistakes are not logical, they are emotional. People spend when they feel stressed, insecure, or left behind. But when you truly internalize, "I shall not want," you remove that inner pressure. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth through purchases or temporary satisfaction. You become more selective, more intentional, and more disciplined. Another important shift happens in your long-term thinking. Scarcity makes you focus on immediate relief, while sufficiency allows you to think ahead. You begin to plan instead of react. You set goals instead of chasing quick fixes. And over time, these small, consistent decisions create a completely different financial path. It's important to understand that this is not about denying reality. If you are in debt, that situation is real, but your mindset determines how you respond to it. Scarcity keeps you trapped in a cycle of stress and poor decisions, while sufficiency opens the door to clarity and control. One keeps you stuck, the other moves you forward. Repeating "I shall not want" with awareness trains your mind to adopt this new perspective. At first, it may feel unnatural, especially if you have been thinking in terms of lack for a long time. But with consistency, it begins to feel real, and once it feels real, it starts influencing your behavior automatically. Your financial situation does not change overnight, but your thinking can, and once your thinking changes, your actions follow. When your actions change consistently, your results eventually reflect that shift. This is how a simple line, when understood and applied correctly, becomes a powerful tool for breaking the cycle of debt and building a more stable, intentional financial life. When you reflect on the line, "He makes me lie down in green pastures" from Psalm 23, it introduces an idea that feels almost opposite to how most people behave under financial pressure. When someone is in debt, their instinct is to move faster, do more, chase harder, and try to fix everything immediately. They fill their days with stress, overthinking, and constant activity, believing that urgency will solve their problems. But this verse points to something deeper: discipline through stillness. The phrase "He makes me" is especially important. It suggests that slowing down is not always a natural choice. Sometimes it has to be intentional, even forced. In the context of your financial life, this means stepping back from impulsive actions and creating space between your emotions and your decisions. Without that space, you end up reacting instead of thinking. Desperation often leads to poor financial behavior. When you feel overwhelmed, you are more likely to take shortcuts, borrowing without a plan, making risky decisions, or spending money just to relieve stress in the moment. These actions may feel like solutions, but they usually make the situation worse. Discipline, on the other hand, is about control. It is the ability to pause, evaluate, and choose wisely, even when you feel pressure. Lying down in green pastures represents a state of calm and stability. It is a place where you are not constantly chasing or worrying. Financially, this translates into creating a structured approach to your money. Instead of reacting to every situation, you build systems, budgets, plans, limits that guide your behavior. This structure reduces chaos and gives you a sense of direction. One of the most powerful aspects of discipline is consistency. It is not about making one perfect decision. It is about making better decisions repeatedly over time. When you slow down and become more intentional, you start noticing patterns in your behavior. You see where your money is going, what triggers your spending, and where you can improve. This awareness is the foundation of change. Another important element is emotional control. Many financial problems are not caused by a lack of knowledge, but by a lack of discipline in emotional moments. You might know what you should do, but in the heat of the moment, you choose differently. Practicing stillness helps you regain control over those moments. It allows you to respond with logic instead of emotion. Discipline also means accepting that progress takes time. Desperation seeks immediate results, but real financial stability is built gradually. When you embrace this, you stop looking for quick fixes and start focusing on sustainable habits. You become more patient, more focused, and more committed to long-term improvement. There is also a sense of trust involved. Slowing down can feel uncomfortable, especially if you are used to constant movement. It may feel like you are not doing enough, but in reality, you are creating the conditions for better decisions. You are allowing clarity to replace confusion and intention to replace impulse. Over time, this approach changes your relationship with money. You no longer feel controlled by it. Instead, you begin to feel in control of it. Your decisions become more deliberate, your actions more aligned with your goals, and your stress begins to decrease. This is the deeper meaning behind discipline over desperation. It is not about doing less, it is about doing things with purpose. It is about choosing calm over chaos, structure over randomness, and patience over panic. And when you apply this consistently, it creates a steady path out of debt and toward a more balanced and stable financial life. When you come to the line, "He leads me beside still waters" in Psalm 23, it reveals something that many people overlook in their financial journey. Clarity is not found in noise, it is found in stillness. Most financial problems are not just about lack of money, they are about lack of clear thinking. And clear thinking is almost impossible when your mind is constantly overwhelmed, distracted, or pressured. In today's world, noise is everywhere. Social media tells you what to buy, people around you influence how you should live, and your own fears keep pushing you to act quickly. When your mind is filled with all this input, your decisions become reactive instead of intentional. You start spending without thinking, comparing your life with others, and chasing things that don't actually improve your situation. This is how financial instability quietly grows. Still waters represent a calm and focused state of mind. It is a place where you are not being pulled in different directions. Financially, this means taking a step back from the noise and giving yourself the space to think clearly about your choices. When your mind is calm, you can actually see what is happening, where your money is going, what your priorities are, and what needs to change. Clarity begins with awareness. Many people don't fully understand their financial situation because they avoid looking at it closely. They may feel stressed about money, but they don't sit down and examine the details. When you embrace stillness, you create the opportunity to face your reality without distraction. You begin to see patterns, unnecessary expenses, emotional spending habits, or lack of planning that were previously hidden in the chaos. Once you have clarity, control naturally follows. You cannot control what you do not understand, but when you clearly see your financial picture, you can start making deliberate choices. You can decide where to cut back, where to invest your energy, and how to move forward. This sense of control reduces anxiety because you are no longer guessing, you are acting with purpose. Another important aspect of stillness is the ability to pause before making decisions. Many financial mistakes happen in moments of urgency, limited time offers, emotional reactions, or sudden desires. When your mind is not calm, you are more likely to act quickly and regret it later. But when you practice stillness, you develop the habit of pausing. You give yourself time to think, to evaluate, and to choose wisely. This pause is powerful. It may only be a few seconds or minutes, but it can prevent decisions that set you back financially. Over time, these small moments of awareness add up. They create a pattern of thoughtful behavior instead of impulsive reactions. Stillness also helps you separate your needs from your wants. In a noisy environment, everything can feel urgent and important, but when you step into a calm state, you can distinguish between what truly matters and what is just temporary desire. This clarity helps you prioritize your spending and focus on what actually supports your long-term stability. It is important to understand that stillness is not about doing nothing. It is about creating the right mental environment for better action. When your mind is clear, your actions become more effective. You waste less time, make fewer mistakes, and move forward with greater confidence. As you continue to apply this principle, your relationship with money begins to change. You no longer feel overwhelmed or out of control. Instead, you feel aware, focused, and capable of making decisions that align with your goals. The stress starts to fade because it is replaced with understanding. This is how clarity creates control. It starts with slowing down, quieting the noise, and allowing yourself to think clearly. From that clarity comes better decisions, and from those decisions comes a more stable and intentional financial life. When you reflect on the phrase, "Even though I walk through the valley," in Psalm 23, it introduces a powerful shift in perspective that many people struggling with debt fail to adopt. The verse does not deny the existence of difficulty. It does not pretend that the valley isn't real. Instead, it redefines your relationship with it. The valley is not where you belong, it is something you move through. This distinction is critical. Many people unknowingly turn their financial struggles into their identity. They start to think, I am broke, I am bad with money, or this is just how my life is. Over time, these thoughts become deeply rooted beliefs, and once a belief becomes part of your identity, it begins to control your behavior. You stop trying new solutions, you accept limitations, and you repeat the same patterns that keep you stuck. But the verse challenges that mindset directly. It reminds you that your current situation is temporary, even if it feels overwhelming. Debt may be your reality right now, but it is not your final destination. You are not meant to settle there. You are meant to pass through it with awareness, effort, and persistence. Seeing debt as temporary changes how you respond to it. Instead of feeling defeated, you begin to feel determined. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, what steps can I take to move forward? This shift may seem small, but it has a huge impact on your actions. When you believe you are stuck, you stop looking for solutions. But when you believe you are moving through a phase, you stay open to change. You become more willing to learn, to adjust your habits, and to take responsibility for your progress. This mindset keeps you active instead of passive. Another important element of this verse is the idea of movement. It says, I walk, not I wait. Progress requires action, even if it is slow. Many people expect immediate results when trying to fix their finances, and when they don't see quick improvement, they lose motivation. But walking through the valley means understanding that progress takes time. It is a step-by-step process, not an instant transformation. Each small step matters. Paying off a portion of your debt, reducing unnecessary expenses, or building a simple budget may not feel significant in the moment, but these actions create momentum. Over time, momentum builds confidence, and confidence keeps you moving forward. The verse also removes fear from the process. I will fear no evil suggests that even in difficult circumstances, you do not allow fear to control your decisions. Fear often leads to avoidance, ignoring bills, delaying action, or making desperate choices just to escape pressure. But when you let go of fear, you are able to face your situation with clarity and courage. Facing your financial reality may be uncomfortable, but it is necessary for change. Avoidance only prolongs the problem. Courage allows you to take control, even when the situation is not perfect. There is also a sense of resilience in this perspective. Walking through the valley does not mean the journey is easy. There will be setbacks, unexpected expenses, and moments of doubt. But when you understand that this is part of the process, you are less likely to give up. You become more patient with yourself and more committed to your long-term goals. Over time, this mindset transforms how you see challenges. Instead of viewing them as permanent obstacles, you begin to see them as temporary phases that teach you discipline, awareness, and strength. These lessons stay with you even after the debt is gone, helping you build a more stable financial future. This is the deeper meaning of seeing debt as temporary, not identity. It is about separating who you are from what you are going through. It is about continuing to move forward, even when progress feels slow. And most importantly, it is about believing that your current situation does not define your future. It is simply a part of the journey you are meant to overcome.